It's just great to be with everybody. It really is something I have so missed. And I know I've heard from a lot of you that you've missed it too. So I'm just glad you're here. I'm sorry that we got a number of last-minute cancellations, including Sarah Kaplan, who was looking forward to hearing what we had to say about rejecting the master's tools and the strong language of the master's tools. And a COVID situation arose, and so she wasn't able to come. And that's true for a number of people. So anyway, they're here with us in spirit, and I'm just glad that you all were able to make it. So when we met in 2017, and I don't remember actually what the topic was then, but I think at that point we really thought that things could not get worse because Trump had just been elected. And then they got worse. And I just want to say, I just think it's a scary world that we are leaving to our children and to our children's children. And I don't want to say any more than that. I listed out the things in my email to all of you yesterday, but I just want to say, like, that is the backdrop. And so I really think that our theme this year couldn't be more timely. It's an exhortation to us to examine the master's tools. And of course, it's a reference to Audre Lorde's famous essay, which I will be reading quite a bit from in my opening remarks here. But we actually found quite compelling her question that she asks in that essay. She says, what does it mean when the tools of a racist patriarchy are used to examine the fruits of that same patriarchy? And her answer is, it means that only the most narrow parameters of change are possible and allowable. And please understand, it is not lost on us that we are sitting here in the Williams Room of the Harvard Business School, HBS being perhaps the quintessential master's tool. But here we do sit, and we did all come together to talk about the master's tools, to expose them, we've got exposing, to expose them, and then to decide which ones do we reject, and then can we appropriate some of them and use them for liberatory ends, and what other tools do we have at our disposal? So these are the questions that we've asked our panels to address. There's 4 tools. So capitalism, gender, as in the gender binary, diversity and inclusion, and higher ed. And when Audre Lorde said, for the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house, she was actually speaking at a feminist conference. It was sometime between 1978 and 1982. I couldn't find an exact date. But it was a conference that was convened by white women who had invited just 2 black women to speak. And you kind of get the sense from the essay that they were asked to speak about race. So it was as if they had no voice in any of the other feminist topics that were being covered in the conference. And so her essay is also about differences. And here, I do think that she gives us some hope and a possible way out, and a tool that we can use to dismantle the master's house, and that tool is our differences. And I'm just going to quote here. She says, within the interdependence of mutual non-dominant differences lies that security which enables us to descend into the chaos of knowledge and return with true visions of our future, along with the concomitant power to effect those changes which can bring that future into being. Difference is that raw and powerful connection from which our personal power is forged. So true visions of our future, along with the concomitant power to effect those changes which can bring that future into being. I just think that's really powerful. She goes on to say, the failure of academic feminists to recognize difference as a crucial strength is a failure to reach beyond the first patriarchal lesson. In our world, divide and conquer must become define and empower. And then in this essay, she gives us, I think, another tool, knowledge. But it's not just any knowledge. Knowledge of the genuine conditions of our lives. And here she quotes Simone de Beauvoir. She says, "It is in the knowledge of the genuine conditions of our lives that we must draw our strength to live and our reasons for acting. And then building on that theme, she goes on and finishes the essay with these words. Racism and homophobia are real conditions of all our lives in this place and time. I urge each one of us here to reach down into that deep place of knowledge inside herself and touch that terror and loathing of any difference that lives there. See whose face it wears. Then the personal as the political can begin to illuminate all our choices. So tomorrow, we're going to hear from May in her keynote that reaching down, what that reaching down can look like when she shares with us the pedagogy that she has developed for unlocking those places in her students. And then Heidi and Baljit are going to guide us through an exercise. So we're going to have an exercise. It's not going to be about, well, it's going to be about a lot of things. I'll let them describe that. They'll be guiding us through an exercise that's really designed to help us do the same, to really get in touch with that deep knowledge. So again, thank you all for coming, and I am going to turn the floor over now to Lakshmi.
Thank you, Robin. Welcome, everyone. When I was thinking about Lord's message and welcoming everyone today, I kept thinking about these alternate tools, right? We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the tools, obviously, but then what is she offering as the alternative? And this notion that Robin quoted, the tools of connection in a community where there are non-dominant differences, where there's mutuality, where there's equality, and that kind of connection. And I was thinking about what do we do to bring that about? And, this maybe brings out a little bit of my mystical, religious, spiritual, I don't know, whatever, other dimension side. As many of you know, my advisor, Sigal Barsaid, passed away this year. And the day they were doing her funeral in California, I was teaching online. And I was teaching a class, and I was talking about expertise and power and dominance. And completely out of left field, very randomly, one of the people in the audience sort of raised their hand and said, well, why can't we create cultures of love? And for those of you who know Sigal's research, she talks about and was a big proponent of how organizations need to be creating and thinking about companionate love. And today, as I was writing these remarks and thinking about this when I was walking over the bridge, I was thinking to myself, what do I want for us in the next couple of days as we think about Lord's vision for alternative tools in a way of healing, repairing, building, generating, creating? And companionate love was what popped into my mind. And what I'm hoping for us is that somewhere over the next day and a half, you find a moment, you find a person, you find a conversation where you find that companionate love. Because what is companionship, right? It's not above you or below you. It's not ahead of you or behind you. It's not a leader or a follower. It's the person who's walking next to you and with you. So I hope we find that together, just a little spark of it over the next couple of days. Thank you very much.